Saturday edition of LCJ Live. Saturday show, we're going to talk about the Friday box office. It was a big week for award shows. Critics' Choice, Emmys happened, BAFTA nominations, and this Tuesday, the Oscar nominations. I'll give you my predictions for the Oscar nominees in some of the major categories. Coming up, if you're watching here on YouTube Live, thank you. Send in a question or a comment, and I can read it live on LCJ Live. We're going to talk about the big movie and or movies that opened yesterday or expanded nationwide yesterday and what's on the way for this coming week. It's going to be a slow box office for a bit. This weekend, next weekend, and then when you get Feb 2 with Argyle, Lisa Frankenstein Feb 9, the doubleheader of Bob Marley and Madam Web for Valentine's Day, and Ordinary Angels with Hilary Swank the week after. Then we're into March with Dune. From then on, and then Kung Fu Panda. It's basically one or two, mainly one, but maybe two, maybe a semi-big release as well per week, all the way rest of winter, spring, and summer. I think the theaters are going to be fine. We just got to get through these next couple weeks. Get to Argyle, and once we hit Argyle, boom, the theaters are going to be fine. What the theaters will benefit from this weekend, and particularly next weekend, is once the Oscar nominations are out, you're going to see movies like Poor Things, which is making money, but it'll probably make more. You're going to see American Fiction. You're going to see probably a re-release of The Holdovers and re-releases of other movies and expansions. Origin goes nationwide next Friday, and if Anjanou Ellis-Taylor gets an Oscar nomination for Best Actress, people are going to want to go see this movie. So movies will benefit from the Oscar nominations, particularly next weekend when there's a couple movies opening, but the big awards films are the ones that are going to benefit. Iron Claw, if it gets some love, and re-releases of other movies. All of Us Strangers could use some money as well. So we will see how the Oscar nominations go. Again, my predictions for the nominees are coming up. Good morning, Light, says Joey. Yeah, thanks for being here on a special Saturday edition of LCJ Live. I've got this car with a brain. This is where we're going to be thinking deeply about what the Oscar nominations are going to be. We're thinking hard. We're thinking of what they're going to be. So that's why I've got the car with the giant brain to think of what they're going to be. I'll tell you what my predictions are coming up. Also, by the way, I voted for the SAG Awards winners the other day. That voting opened. The BAFTA nominations, of course, the big shocker, Barbie didn't get into Best Picture. Could we see the BAFTAs expand from 5 nominees to more because of something like that? Maybe. We'll see. I kind of like that the BAFTAs is still an award show that just has 5 Best Picture nominees, but we'll see if there's an expansion. And we had the Emmys. We had Critics' Choice. They were good shows, ambitious Emmys, and a solid Critics' Choice show. So a pretty good week for award shows. Let's get to your box office so far for the weekend. Mean Girls on top again with $3.3 million. Paramount's going to look at a $10 or $11 million weekend. Its total right now is just under 42. It'll try to get to 50 million by tomorrow night. It's a big drop for Mean Girls. It's about a 2/3 drop from the 28 to 30. You look at the long weekend down to about 10 or 11 million. That's close to a 2/3 drop. Not surprised, and not surprised that it's going to win, although it's got a competitor that's going to make a run at trying to beat Mean Girls this weekend. But not surprised that the drop is going to be big. I think a lot of people, you may have seen articles that said, oh, a lot of people knew going in it was going to be a musical. Yeah, but it just didn't work. And I think if you know that and the buzz, that it's just not great, then you're not going to go see this Mean Girls for a second time or maybe a first time. So I'm not shocked that we're going to get a 60% plus drop for Mean Girls. Number 2 is The Beekeeper, which had a decent open last weekend, about 17, 18 million, and it added 2.5 million on Friday. It's at 25.1. It'll pass 30 million probably by tomorrow night, and it'll come in second again. The Beekeeper, Amazon MGM has to be happy with this. I think they will green light a second Beekeeper. Now, a drop from about 18 million to 8, yeah, it's a little much, but people still like these Jason Statham action movies. He's been making these movies for what, 20 years? And people are still going. Whether the movie is rated R or the movie's rated PG-13 like Meg 2 The Trench, which ended up with a $30 million open and an $83 million total for Warner Brothers. I think Amazon has to be happy with this. In third for Friday is Anyone But You with 1.7 million. It has crossed 60 million and is about to pass Napoleon to become the third biggest Columbia Pictures movie of 2023. Wow. No one saw this coming. In a close fourth position is Wonka, which added 1.6 million. It's at 182.3. Wonka has passed Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, to enter the domestic box office top 10 of 2023. So Taylor Swift is now 11th for the year. I think the reasoning for that is two things. Wonka has made a lot more money than a lot of people thought it was gonna, including me. I didn't think it would do this well, especially the legs that it's had over the last 5-6 weeks. And Taylor Swift had, big showings Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a couple of Thursdays. Halloween night was a Tuesday, but it didn't play every day. And it didn't even play every potential showtime of every day. So it lost a little money. It did. But it allowed, the core fan base to go when school's out. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe some Thursdays, maybe Halloween night as a treat. Taylor Swift the Eras Tour did extremely well. $180 million is respectable, but it is not going to be on that top 10 list of 2023 movies at the domestic box office. And this Wonka is the first movie of the year 2023 that came out in December to enter, and the only December release. Sometimes there have been 2 or even 3 December movies that have ended up in the top 10. We're going to get just one, and it's Wonka. It is not Aquaman. It is not Migration. It is Wonka in that top 10. When you look at the domestic box office top 10 movies of 2023, number 1, of course, is Barbie. Number 2 is the Super Mario Brothers movie. Number 3 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which had a re-release this weekend, but not a lot of people are going. It added just 33,000 yesterday. Number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Oppenheimer rounds out your top 5. They are the 5 movies that made at least $300 million. Number 6, The Little Mermaid. A distant 7th is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Wonka will end up number 8. John Wick Chapter 4 in 9th, and probably the biggest box office surprise of the year with 184.2 million, Sound of Freedom in number 10. Those are your 10 biggest movies. Nothing will come close. Now, Migration, which added 1.1 million on Friday, is up to $90.5 million and could make a run at crossing 100 million for Universal and Illumination. Trolls Band Together is at 101.6 right now. And we will see if Migration can make more than Trolls, enter Universal's top 5 of the year, and add another movie that makes more than 100 million, making it 25 movies for 2023 to gross at least 100 million domestically. I think it's going to happen, especially with the lack of other family film options, new options coming in theaters, basically until Kung Fu Panda 4 March 8. Migration, which will probably add another, let's say 3 million, let's say it gets to 93.5, Universal will try to get this movie to $100 million. You've got the President's Day weekend. Yes, some kids are probably going to go to Madame Web, but not all. I think Migration gets to that 100 million mark. It'll take a little time, but it'll get there to be the 25th movie from 2023 to hit 100 million bucks. Never underestimate Wonka, says Joey. Yeah, people wanted to go to this even more than Mary Poppins. I mean, it's kind of the same kind of event feel. And Mary Poppins Returns didn't get a sequel. I don't think it needs a sequel. I love Mary Poppins Returns. I don't think it needs a sequel. This was a one-time event. And I think a lot of people consider this Wonka to be a one-time event. Oh, wow, a new Wonka movie. There hasn't been one in 18, 19 years. Let's go. Maybe it gets a sequel, but I don't think the sequel will do quite as well as this. I think this is a one-time event. I mean, they may greenlight it, but people aren't going to approach a second Wonka movie like they approach this Wonka movie. The curiosity factor, the nostalgia factor that we had with Mary Poppins Returns. I don't see that for another Wonka movie. That's made quite a bit of money for Warner Brothers, their second biggest movie of the year. I.S.S., the new sci-fi action space thriller with Ariana DeBose, Bleecker Street is estimating 1.2 million so far. That counts Thursday money and Friday money. That's not great. I mean, the estimates for the weekend were going to be 3 million. It's probably going to try to hit $3 million. It is not a very good movie. I watched this towards the middle-ish of December. I screened it, and no, it's not very good. It gets more and more extreme as it goes on. It's sort of interesting early on, but it gets goofier. You can't handle it. It gets more ridiculous, and in the end, what was the point? It was just kind of an exercise in filmmaking, and having this kind of story play out, it just doesn't work. So not a lot of people going to see I.S.S. I saw the cinema score on it. It's a C-. That is rough. Next up, I believe, Aquaman, Lost Kingdom. I'm going to unbutton this button. Next up, Aquaman and Lost Kingdom, 850,000. It's at 111.4. Followed by The Boys in the Boat, which added 786,000. It's at 42.1. That's pretty good. Night Swim added 730,000. It's at 21.8. This was not the hit that Universal and Blumhouse hoped for. Just not. And rounding out the top 10 so far in terms of Friday money is Poor Things, which added 575,000. I just cannot believe that more people are going to see Poor Things than who went to see The Holdovers. It is past The Holdovers now. That to me is insane. Focus Features needs to re-release The Holdovers once it gets a bunch of Oscar nominations on Tuesday. Please re-release The Holdovers. Give it some more money. It is worth seeing in the theater. My #1 movie of 2023. Poor Things is awful. And yes, it's going to get some Oscar nominations. Yes, Emma Stone could win her second Best Actress Oscar, but it's just not a good film. But the curiosity factor is there, and that's why it's up to $19 million domestically. And it will probably try to make a run at 25 at this point, when you count the Oscar nominations coming in and people's interest in going to see Poor Things. Close behind Poor Things are The Iron Claw, which added 501,000. It's about 31 million, sixth biggest A24 movie ever. And American Fiction added 506,000. It's at 6.7 million. American Fiction needs a Best Picture nomination. Jeffrey Wright could be nominated for Best Actor, Sterling K. Brown for supporting, the movie for adapted screenplay, but it needs a Best Picture nomination to make some money. If it doesn't get a Best Picture nomination, I don't see the movie making more than 10 million. Well, it adds $1 million, that's 7.7, making more than $12 or $13 million total. It's got to get a Best Picture nomination. With the nationwide expansion, people would be interested in seeing this movie because it's a good film and because it's on the ballot. Some other movies with some money. Book of Clarence, just one of the biggest flops of the year so far. 330,000. It's only made 3.9 million. The Color Purple added 170,000. It's at 58.7. I think it's going to get a Best Picture nomination. I'll talk about that in a minute, but we will see. All of Us Strangers expanded 165,000. It's at 2 million. Got a bunch of BAFTA nominations, including director Claire Foy, who's very good in it. Some other nominations. It's up for Independent Spirit Awards. I think this is a movie Searchlight initially hoped would be on the Best Picture list, but I don't think it's going to happen on Tuesday. The Zone of Interest in 82 theaters added 150,000. It's at 1.3. That is a very possible movie that gets on Best Picture and Best Director list. We'll talk about that in a second. And Soul added 32,000. It's at 747. I don't think it's going to crack $1 million. That is too bad. Before I get to my predictions for the Oscar nominations, some movies that come out this week include Miller's Girl, which I have seen. It's with Martin Freeman and Jenna Ortega. I'll have my thoughts on that on Wednesday. I think the embargo is Wednesday. The Underdogs is a new Snoop Dogg sports comedy that's on Prime Video this coming weekend. Also, The Peasants, from the makers of Loving Vincent, which I saw back in September. Quite an achievement. Once again, a fully painted animated movie opens in New York this Friday the 26th and expands to more theaters in the coming weeks. Also opening is an action film with Ian McShane called American Star, which I haven't heard a lot about, but may be interested in seeing that. And tomorrow, not tomorrow, I keep thinking it's Sunday, it's only Saturday. Monday, new AnimationScoop.com Q&A and LCJ Q&A podcast episode with Zach Woods, the star of The Office and Silicon Valley. And he's lent his voice to a number of animated films over the years and shows. He's got a new Peacock animated series called In the Know. It's about NPR. And he's the creator of it. He's the star of it. He worked with Mike Judge on this. So a new interview with Zach Woods. Great conversation about this new stop-motion comedy that premieres Thursday on Peacock. Monday, you'll get that new LCJ Q&A podcast episode at lcj.podbean.com. If you want to see a preview clip of me and Zach Woods, he talks about his conversation with Mike Tyson, who's on the show. Very revealing. Go to lights-camera-jackson.com. It's right there. Also at youtube.com/lights-camera-jackson. Okay, here we go. Your nominees for the Academy Awards on Tuesday, I believe, will be the following. For Best Animated Feature, The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Robot Dreams, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Suzume. Alternate option, Nimona. And if it had to take out one of the five, I think Nimona replaces Suzume. I do believe a lot of people love Robot Dreams, including me. So Nimona would replace Suzume. That's animated feature. Director, Greta Gerwig for Barbie, Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, and Alexander Payne for The Holdovers. I do believe Martin Scorsese will get snubbed for Killers of the Flower Moon. He got snubbed from the BAFTAs the other day. I made these predictions public on Monday. I predicted a Scorsese snub, and I'm sticking with it. If Scorsese replaces one of these five, it's either Payne or Glazer, and I would say maybe Payne, but I don't think Scorsese is getting a nomination on Tuesday. Actress in a supporting role, Emily Blunt, fingers crossed, finally her first Oscar nomination. Oppenheimer. Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple. Penelope Cruz for Ferrari. The Academy loves Penelope Cruz. Jodie Foster for Nyad. And Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. My alternate choice is Julianne Moore. If Julianne Moore replaces one of the five, it is either Penelope Cruz or Jodie Foster. And if I had to pick one, I would say Jodie Foster, but I think Foster's got momentum. I really think Penelope Cruz gets on the list. Supporting actor, I believe the nominees will be Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Charles Melton for May December. A lot of people hated that snub. I don't think quite the impact that the Kristen Stewart Spencer SAG snub had, and then she got the Oscar nomination. But I think some people will want to get Charles Melton on the ballot, especially younger voters. Alternate choice here, Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. I think he would take out either Sterling or Charles. I don't think Willem Dafoe gets nominated. So neither Poor Things guy gets nominated, I think. But we'll see. It could go in many different directions. Holdovers was simply phenomenal all around, says Joey. Yes, it was a great movie. Actress in a leading role, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Huller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, Margot Robbie for Barbie, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. Alternate choice is Anjanou Ellis-Taylor for Origin. I really think there's a chance she gets the surprise nomination. If she takes out one of the five, I think it's Carey Mulligan. Best actor in a leading role. There are 6 men in contention for this. It's 5 slots. Somebody's getting snubbed, and it's probably going to be big. Bradley Cooper, I believe, will get nominated for Maestro. Coleman Domingo for Rustin. Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon. Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. And Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. The 6th person is Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. I could see Jeffrey Wright maybe replacing Coleman Domingo, maybe Bradley Cooper, maybe Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo got snubbed by SAG, but the thing is, the Academy loves Leo. The Academy loves Leo so much that they nominated him 4 years ago for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood over Taron Egerton for Rocketman, and Taron Egerton won the Golden Globe over Leo. That's how much the Academy still likes Leo, and that was after he won the Oscar for The Revenant. I still think Leo gets in. I pray Giamatti doesn't get snubbed, or Cillian Murphy. Bradley Cooper, I don't think Bradley Cooper gets in director. He did not get in director either for A Star is Born. I just don't think the momentum's there, but would they also snub him for actor? Coleman Domingo, I think, gets in. Jeffrey Wright, people, it's a good performance. Leo didn't get in SAG. I think Leo gets in, and that's what's gonna make the Best Actor ballot tricky. Now to Best Picture finally here. My predictions for the 10 nominees are American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Color Purple, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, and Poor Things. Now, yes, Past Lives isn't anywhere else on my ballot. I don't think Greta Lee gets in. And I don't think Celine Song gets in for director, but I still think enough people like that movie a lot, A24 film, that it will get in the 10 for Best Picture. If there are alternates, The Zone of Interest, also A24, but I could see Jonathan Glazer in director, but the movie not in picture, or an animated film, either Boy and the Heron or Spider-Verse, or both, that would be something. But the first animated movie, not from Disney or Pixar, to be on Best Picture ballot, that could happen on Tuesday, that would be historic. Fourth animated movie up for Best Picture. Could be Heron, could be Spider-Verse, or they cancel each other out in the voting. And therefore, a film like Zone of Interest maybe gets in. If any of those movies replaces one of the 10, I say could be Past Lives, could be Anatomy of a Fall, though BAFTA loved Anatomy of a Fall. I think your locks are absolutely Barbie. I think Color Purple gets in. Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon. I think Maestro's up for picture. Oppenheimer, of course, and Poor Things. I think American Fiction gets in. I really do. So those are my predictions for the nominations on Tuesday. They'll be announced on Tuesday morning at 8:30 live on ABC Good Morning America and online. We'll see what happens. It'll probably be a Barbenheimer battle for total nominations and wins once again this award season. And we will see what happens when we're back, I believe, next Sunday. So that would be the 28th of January at noon Eastern live on LCJ Live. We'll talk about the Oscar nominations. We'll talk about what will probably be a low box office weekend, and we'll preview February and beyond when things start cooking again at the movies. Thanks for watching today's episode of LCJ Live. I'm on Twitter at LCJ Reviews and Instagram at LatesCamJackson. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend and enjoy the Oscar nominations on Tuesday. And if you're watching movies, new movies, or going to the movies, enjoy it. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.